Welcome back. In our final journey through the Christmas story, we find the Holy Family as fugitives. They've fled to Egypt, escaping the murderous rage of King Herod. Imagine those years, away from the familiar hills of Galilee, in a land of different gods and a different language. This was an exile, not a vacation. Every day was an act of faith. Joseph, the carpenter, would have worked to provide for his family. Mary would have created a home out of very little, teaching her young son the songs and prayers of their people. These were the quiet years, a time of waiting and trusting in God's unseen plan. For Jesus, it was a time of simple childhood. He played under the Egyptian sun, learned his first words, and took his first steps. There were no miracles, no crowds, just the ordinary, beautiful rhythm of a family bound by love and a shared secret hope. They lived as strangers in a strange land, an echo of their ancestors' own story. But this time, they were protecting the one who had come to be the ultimate rescuer. Then, after years of waiting, the moment of release arrives. Once again, God speaks through a dream. An angel appears to Joseph, bringing the news they had longed to hear. Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead. Herod, the terrible king who slaughtered the innocents of Bethlehem, was gone. The threat had been removed. Can you feel the relief? The sudden, breathtaking hope flooding their hearts. The exile is over, it's time to go home. The journey back would have been filled with a different kind of emotion, not fear, but joyful anticipation. They were retracing their steps, not as fugitives, but as a family returning to their roots, to the land God had promised them. As they crossed back into Israel, their destination was clear, Judea, specifically Bethlehem, the city of David, Jesus' rightful home. But as they drew closer, troubling news reached them. Herod might be dead, but his cruelty lived on in his son, Archelaus, who now ruled Judea. This wasn't the fresh start they had hoped for. Archelaus was known to be just as tyrannical as his father. A shadow of fear fell over them once more. The danger hadn't gone. It had just changed its name. Joseph, ever the protector, was afraid to go on. In his moment of doubt, God guided him again. Another dream, another warning. Don't go to Judea. The path isn't safe. The dream redirected them northward, away from the seat of power in Jerusalem. They were led to their old region, Galilee. But they didn't return to a prominent city. Instead, they settled in a small, obscure town called Nazareth, a place so insignificant it would later prompt the question, can anything good come from Nazareth? And yet, in this humble, overlooked town, another prophecy was fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. God's plan was once again revealed not in palaces, but in the margins, in the places no one was watching. By settling in Nazareth, Jesus was hidden in plain sight, sheltered from the political turmoil, allowed to grow up in peace. And so began the longest and most mysterious chapter of Jesus' life, his childhood and young adulthood. The Bible is famously silent about these 30 years. There are no stories of grand miracles or public sermons. There is only a simple, profound summary, and the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. Think about what this means. The Son of God learned to walk, to talk, to read. He would have studied the scriptures in the local synagogue. He would have learned his father's trade, the craft of a carpenter. His hands would have known the feel of wood and the heft of a hammer. He experienced the joys and sorrows of a normal human life. He lived a life of beautiful, powerful obscurity. This wasn't just a waiting game. It was part of the mission. For God to truly be with us, Emmanuel, he had to live a life like us. He had to understand our daily struggles from the inside out. In the quiet workshop of Nazareth, divinity was wedded to dusty, sweat-stained humanity. This brings us to the very heart of it all, the true and lasting meaning of Christmas. Why did all of this happen? Why the angels, the star, the flight to Egypt, the return to Nazareth? It's all for one reason. God wanted to be with us. The Christmas story isn't about a distant God sending down rules from on high. It's about a loving God who steps out of eternity and into time, who wraps himself in flesh and blood and moves into the neighborhood. He came not as a conquering king, but as a vulnerable baby, born in poverty and laid in an animal's feeding trough. His first visitors weren't royalty, but humble shepherds. He spent his early years as a refugee. This is the radical, upside-down nature of God's kingdom. He reveals his greatest power in humility. He shows his greatest wisdom in simplicity. He reveals his infinite love by making himself small enough to be held in our arms. Christmas is the ultimate declaration that you are not alone. In your joy, God is with you. In your sorrow, God is with you. In your work, in your rest, in your moments of doubt and faith, God is with you. He didn't just visit, he came to stay. The birth of Jesus in that lowly manger was the beginning of a story that would change the world forever. It was the quiet dawn of a new day for all humanity. The little baby, hidden away in Nazareth, would one day step onto the public stage and reveal the fullness of God's love, a love that would lead him to a cross and ultimately to an empty tomb. But it all started here. In the stillness of a winter's night, with the cry of a newborn baby, it started with hope. As we conclude our series, I pray that the wonder of this story fills your heart, not just at Christmas, but every day of the year. The story isn't over. The invitation to know this God with us is extended to you today. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. May the peace and hope of that first Christmas be with you always.